Can you feel it, Sagittarius? Something that isn't ordinary. Not like the daily struggles, not like the chances that once came and went, but something rising from within your soul. Something vast, sacred, is being activated. And the terrifying part isn't that it's coming, it's that it's coming, only for you. Because God has seen you, Sagittarius. Not under the spotlight, but in the moment you thought you had been forgotten. When you collapsed alone. When no one heard your soul crying out. It was in that moment, heaven opened its eyes, and destiny began to move. Now, I'm going to tell you a secret. A prophecy that has never been spoken over anyone else. And you must be ready, because once you hear this, you will never be the same again. Leave a sign to the universe with these very words: I have been seen by God, and I am ready to receive what is coming. Not just a sentence, but a code that awakens the divine stream sleeping within you. If this speaks to you, like this message and share the video, because maybe you're the only one in this circle who has awakened. And if you're still wondering, why you? Why did God's eyes fall on no one else but the soul of a Sagittarius? The answer lies in the mission you were born carrying. A mission no one else was brave enough to accept, except you. And now it's time I tell you this. Why Sagittarius is the only sign chosen to walk out of the darkness where humanity is drowning. Sagittarius, you were not born to pretend, not to wear masks, not to follow the crowd or shrink to fit a world that doesn't understand you. You were born to light a path, even when everyone else chooses the comfort of the dark. In this society, people are enchanted by spotlights, but they forget that true light doesn't come from outside. It comes from wounds purified by truth. And you are one of the rare souls who dares to live that way. I've always believed that each generation carries a group of pioneer souls, not to be admired, but to clear the way. And I've never seen a sign carry that burden as courageously and quietly as Sagittarius. Maybe you've thought, why am I tested so much? Why do others seem to move through life with ease, while I have to fight every day? But you didn't know. That very thing is what sets you apart. You are not seduced by false glory, because your soul was designed to seek truth, not applause. You can't remain in a relationship built on control, because your spirit was made for freedom, but a freedom with purpose, with value, with moral compass. You can't live on borrowed belief, because inside you lives a quiet compass that only vibrates when it nears the truth. And that's why you were chosen, not because you were perfect, but because you never rejected the journey of turning pain into light. Do you remember the last time you wanted to give up? Not because you were weak, but because you were too tired of being strong alone. No one came to save you. No miracle burst through, but still you stood back up. And in that very moment, God saw you. He didn't appear to stop your suffering. He waited to see if you had the courage to walk toward the light anyway, empty-handed, alone. And when you walked, trembling, all of heaven began to move. Write it down as a testimony. I will no longer hide my light. Because when you dare to say that, you'll begin to feel something shift in your real life. Sagittarius was not born to blend in. You are not a replica. You are the bearer of sacred fire to awaken humanity from its fabricated dreams. When you are at your most broken, your light shines brightest. Because light doesn't have to shout. It only has to exist, and the darkness will retreat on its own. That's what the world is forgetting. That's what Sagittarius was born to remind. And if you are hearing this now, it means God still hopes in you. Not everyone escapes the dark, because not everyone is brave enough to face it. But you are the only sign born to pierce it with your arrow, and light a new horizon for an entire generation. And please remember, if what you just heard stirred something in your heart, leave a comment. I was born to lead the way, and share this video, because the world needs more Sagittarius souls who no longer hide their light. And now, as the light within you begins to awaken, get ready for what comes next. A recent event was not random, but a sacred call sent directly to you. There are days when life falls silent like a closed door, and you, the one who always believed in hope, can only stand there between the threshold of loss and a faith starting to fracture. Everything happened so fast. A wave swept away everything you once called stable. Career, family, honor, belief. They slipped through your hands like dry sand in a storm. And you, Sagittarius, who once held your head high, had to bow down, not out of weakness, but because there was no one left to lift your head with. You went quiet. The universe went quiet. The whole sky seemed to turn away. But within that silence, the most sacred thing was beginning to stir. Pluto never arrives with warning bells. It doesn't roar. It doesn't scream like Mars or blaze like the sun. It approaches in silence, like a pallbearer in white, with eyes void of hate or pity, asking only one question: are you ready to become who you are? And if right now it feels like everything is falling apart, perhaps you are in the middle of a purification. Not punishment, but cleansing, to be reborn. I remember a Sagittarius man. He wasn't a sage. He wasn't a preacher. He was just a father, a husband, a working man. And then he lost everything in a nameless winter. No one heard him cry. No one saw the nights he prayed alone, hands trembling in the dark, because the light had vanished, both outside and within. Until one morning, he passed by a small chapel, and for reasons he didn't understand, his feet stopped. No one guided him, but when the heart has grown tired of wandering, it remembers the way home. He sat down in silence, and when he looked up, he saw a white bird gliding past a stained glass window depicting the suffering Christ. That was it. No prophecy, no miracle, just one moment, but enough for him to know he had not been forgotten. And you, have you ever had a moment like that? A song playing right when you were thinking of someone who's passed? A number repeating itself in the darkest week of your life? A dream you woke from in tears, but somehow your heart felt lighter? If you have, that wasn't coincidence. It was the gaze from the other side of the light, still watching you, even when you no longer had the strength to look back. I believe this. There is no event in life that doesn't hold a hidden door behind it. Sometimes you have to lose everything, so your hands are finally empty enough to receive the key falling from God's hand. And if today you're in a season of disorientation, believe this. You're not being pushed away from your path. You're being turned back toward the direction you were always meant to walk. Write this down if you feel it. I've seen the sign, and I will no longer ignore it. That might be the moment the universe sends another sign, clearer, closer. You are Sagittarius, not born to stay safe. You are the one who carries the torch into the wilderness of the human soul, to awaken those who've forgotten the light. But before you can lead anyone else, you must first walk through the fire within yourself. And maybe that event you called the end was actually a silent birth ceremony, one God, in all his gentleness, has been preparing just for you. There are moments when you no longer have the strength to pray, not because you don't believe, but because you no longer know where to begin. You've been through so much, your heart has become cautious. You don't shut the door, but you don't dare fling it wide open. You no longer scream, but inside, you're still bleeding. And in the moment you felt the most alone, God began to whisper. Not with words, not with thunder, but with symbols. Because there are kinds of love that do not need to speak, they only need to exist. And there are souls, like Sagittarius, who are healed not by medicine, but by a gaze from above. In astrology, when the sun draws near Neptune, or when Pluto begins its retrograde, certain symbols begin to appear in daily life. They're not for everyone. They're for those deep in the process of soul recovery. Like you. An old book, dusty, but inside it, a single sentence that stops you in your tracks. A white bird flying past just as you were about to give up everything. Rainwater, cool and clear, running through your fingers as if someone were washing away the remnants of pain still clinging to you. They don't come to surprise you. They come to help you remember. To remember who you are and who is seeing you right now. When you see those symbols, understand this. God does not send thunder. He sends gentleness. He does not arrive with resounding echoes. He comes in stillness and stays like a soft period at the end of an unfinished sentence. I once heard a Sagittarius say, "The day I fell apart was the day I saw the number 777 3 times in the same morning." And at that moment, he didn't think it meant anything, just a coincidence. But later, looking back, he realized it was the moment his soul began to heal without him trying. Because when you know you're being seen, pain loses its terror, and tears become a way to walk toward the light. Maybe you're in that phase right now. A phase where no one understands what you're carrying inside. No one knows what you've been trying to hold together, even if no one says a word. And during that phase, God does not ask you to be strong. He only asks that you don't disconnect from the symbols he's sending. They come like invisible hands, silent messages sent from heaven saying, you are still being watched, still being loved, still being healed. If you've seen something repeat again and again on your weakest days, write it down. I've seen the sign and I will no longer ignore it. It's more than just a comment. It is your reply sent back to heaven. You might feel you're not ready to forgive, not healed enough to love again, not strong enough to take off the mask you once had to wear to survive. But do you know this? God does not need you to be perfect. He only needs you to be honest with your pain. Because where you hit bottom is where his healing hand can finally reach you. And if those symbols have been appearing around you lately, this is the phase. You're stepping into the land of resurrection. A process not loud, not flashy, not written in headlines, just this. Inside you, a voice becoming clearer with each day. I am ready to return to the light. There's something few dare to admit. It's not the fall that hurts us the most. It's the fear of falling again. A fear with no clear shape. It doesn't scream. It doesn't destroy like rage. It's softer, but it seeps deeper. It lives in the trembling of your hands when you're about to begin something new. In the way your eyes shift when someone asks, "Are you okay?" And in those nights when you whisper to yourself, "If that happens again, I don't know if I'll rise once more." But what if I told you? But what if I told you that fear did not come to break you, but to ask you a sacred question? Are you ready to step into the light? Even if you're still wounded, even if you don't know what's waiting, even if your hands still shake and your heart is still stitched together. I knew a Sagittarius woman. She lost her only child in an accident, and after that, she was no longer herself. She lived, but as if no one remained inside. Each day was existence, not life. Each sunrise was a battle just to hold back tears when the light poured through her window. Then one day, she started writing. Not for anyone to read, but so the pain wouldn't suffocate her. She wrote of loss, not to seek pity, but to remind herself that she was still alive. Each word was like incense lit for the part of her that died with her child. And something miraculous happened. Those words healed others. She became the one whom hundreds of strangers turned to, just to speak to someone who had walked through the very pain they were stuck in. The fear of losing everything had become the bridge that connected her to the deepest part of her humanity. I no longer see fear as the enemy. I see it as a messenger. It comes to test whether we are truly honest with ourselves. It asks, do you dare believe that on the other side of fear is a more beautiful version of you? And if you dare to cross it, not with false confidence, but with trembling that still keeps going, you'll enter a kind of freedom no one can take from you. When you stop hiding, when you stop forcing yourself to be okay, and begin to face the most fragile part of yourself, you are no longer a victim. You become the miracle. A miracle that breathes, that weeps, that lives, and from those very wounds you open a doorway for someone else's healing. Maybe you're still standing on the edge between avoidance and facing it, between wanting to let go and wanting to move forward, between the fear of repeating the old pain and the dream of starting something new. And if you are there, write it down. I'm ready to face my fear. Because you'll be surprised to realize fear isn't as big as you imagined. You are the true miracle. There are days when you look up at the sky and it feels strangely empty, no sign, no reply, not even a quiet punctuation from the divine. You wonder, where is God? Why isn't he saying anything? But do you know this? Heaven has never been silent. It's just that God's voice doesn't speak in the language of this world. Not with words, not with human sound, but with soft waves inside the soul. The kind you only hear when you're quiet enough to truly listen. In astrology, Jupiter, the ruling planet of Sagittarius, is not a planet of noise. It doesn't shout like Mars. It doesn't erupt like Pluto. Jupiter is the whisper of a promise, the light that appears after a prayer, the gentle glow that surrounds you when you think you're sinking. It is the echo of faith, saying even when you see nothing, light is still working. I believe this with all my heart. God never takes back his word. It's just that when your soul is being remade, he needs you to be quiet for a while, because sometimes you think you're being lost, but really, you're being hidden like a seed. Before it blooms, it must disappear beneath the earth. No one sees it. No one knows it's there. But inside, a new life is preparing to rise into the light. You might be in that phase right now, a phase where all the outside sounds seem to fade away. No encouragement, no miracle, no clear calling. But listen closely. Inside you there is a very small sound, a voice like someone you once loved whispering, "You are not lost. You are learning to hear with your soul." I used to think God only showed up when I was happy. But now I believe he's closest to me when I am at my weakest, not to pull me up with power, but to sit beside me until I'm ready to rise again. And you, Sagittarius, soul of hope, were born with a special inner compass. A compass that doesn't just point forward, but points to a light invisible to most. A light seen only by those who have fallen and gotten back up. Your journey isn't to hear the noise. It's to hear truth in silence. And from that truth, light will begin to rewrite your destiny. If you've ever heard a calling, not with your ears, but deep in your heart, a sentence soft as wind that made you stop mid-step, write this down. I heard a calling from heaven. Because maybe God is still waiting for your reply. Not through words, but through a small action. A choice to forgive, a moment of opening your heart, a single step back toward trust. And if you become still enough, you'll hear it. Light doesn't shout, it simply waits for your return. Because he doesn't need to scream to prove his love, he only needs to be present, and you'll know, even in the silence, I am still held. There are some who, when they hurt, try to forget. Some, when they lose, choose silence. But there is another kind of soul, a rare few, who turn pain into material to illuminate the path ahead. And Sagittarius, you are one of them. You don't run from sorrow. You carry it quietly, even when it grows heavy enough to break your shoulders. Even when no one knows. Even when no one asks. Even when others look at you like a dreamer. But they don't see that behind the smiling face is an ancient wound, teaching you how to turn tears into light. You're not someone who complains. You simply believe that if you can keep walking, maybe you'll be the first to carry hope to someone on the verge of giving up. And because you believe that, you keep going. You are both the sleepwalker through the world and the silent flame keeper for those who no longer dare believe in goodness. You are the one willing to open your heart, even after betrayal. The one brave enough to love again, even while the old wound still bleeds. You are the kind who believes that even a soul full of cracks can still shine. No one taught you how to do that. No one prepared you for the sleepless nights. No one stood beside you in your weakest hours, and yet you understand, not everyone is born to walk as you do. Not everyone can endure as you do. And not everyone can turn endurance into healing. As you can. I once met someone like that, a Sagittarius. She had lost everything, family, career, honor. And in a moment when it seemed like no one was standing by her side, she made the strangest choice someone wounded could make. She chose to share the light. She didn't wait for apologies. She didn't ask for justice. She simply helped others understand, even when your life has shattered, there is still a way to live on, and to live beautifully. No one understands you. No one sees the nights you sit alone in the dark, asking God why he remains silent. But he has not been silent. He has only been watching you grow. And when the whole world turned its back, you still kept walking. No one walked with you, yet you still moved forward. No one applauded, yet you still kept your kindness. Because the light in you doesn't wait for recognition to shine. It shines because it is real, because it was born to light the way. Maybe what you're going through today is not punishment, but the ignition of a destiny you never dared to imagine. You don't have to know exactly where the road will lead. You only need to keep the flame alive. because maybe you are the only flame someone lost in the dark is waiting for. If your heart is trembling as you hear these words, that is not an accident. And if a part of you feels, I've walked in the dark long enough, it's time to carry the light for someone else, then write it down as a quiet declaration to the universe. I have seen the light in my pain. And then the door you've been waiting for may open on its own. Because sometimes miracles don't come from the outside. They are born from the very cracks in your soul. You have heard, you have felt, and if you are still here, quietly until this very moment, then this is no longer a random message. This is a calling, not through sound, but through a deep, steady feeling in your chest that you are walking towards something greater than anything you've ever known. The universe doesn't operate by time, it moves by the heartbeat of the souls who are ready. And when Jupiter, planet of sacred promises, aligns with fire in your natal chart, a door quietly opens. Not bright, not dazzling, but if you are awake, you will walk through it. They call it the window of grace. It does not open for the crowd. It opens for those who have learned to honor both the light and the darkness within. If you are one of them, you won't need anyone to confirm it. You'll simply feel something shifting deep in your chest, as if your soul has just been called by name. Not everyone is chosen. Not everyone has the courage to stay until the very end. But if you are hearing this now, then it means you have been seen. And now you are about to be guided. Not with a map, not with loud promises, but with a quiet trust that you belong to something greater, deeper, more sacred than anything you've ever called a goal. Let the old things fall away. Not because you are tired, but because you are finally ready to hold what you truly deserve. The door is opening, and behind it is a destiny written for no one else but you. If this has touched the deepest part of you, write it down as a sign sent back to heaven. I am the one who has been seen, and I am ready to receive the miracle. And if you truly believe that goodness isn't meant just for you, share this message, because light was never meant to be kept. And maybe you are the first open door for someone still standing in the dark, not yet brave enough to speak the word hope. Thank you, Sagittarius, for staying until the end, for not abandoning yourself, for proving that true light never goes out, no matter how many times the world falls silent.